this week's video, I am excited to show you my Make 9 for 2026.
You know what? I'll just say this. Is the grocery store gonna get mad at me if I complain about the carts not being returned?
Wait, what?
Like if I come on the podcast and complain about something or talk about something,
Yeah.
am I supposed to talk about no people, places, or things while I'm here?
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you're having a really good day so far. If you're new here, my name's Taylor. I come to you from Baltimore City, Maryland, and here on my YouTube channel, I feature content that is generally focused on knitting and spinning. In this week's episode of what I call the Thread to Mend podcast, I am wearing my Mizorina by Caitlin Hunter, knit in my Handspun, and modified to have sleeves with the textured pattern and mostly stockinette. I chose stockinette because it was much easier to knit. But I did extend the cable down the sleeve with the eyelet option between the two, which I really like. I thought that was a really interesting way to keep it, you know, fun, but not too much fun. Anyway, I am really excited to share with you all my Make 9 for 2026. I know that's a little early to get into the Make 9 territory. Most people leave that till December, January, but I already know exactly what I'm knitting for the next 13 months because I do want to start with as clean of a slate for 2026 as possible. So I'll just do a very brief, I won't even show them to you, but very brief recap of what I'm currently knitting and what I maybe hope to even finish in the next several weeks. I'm knitting the henwife shawl with my Handspun. I've stopped mid-row because of course I did, but I am, like I said before, I think about, I don't know, half done, less than half done with this. I am nearly finished with the body of my Chained Oblivion. I'm making small progress on this each week. The rows are very, very long right now. I'm continuing to decrease at the raglan shoulder shaping, and because this is knit from the bottom up, it's really hard to try on and show you how it's looking. So this is that, and this is the thing I knit at night the most. The other one travels with me. And then the third project I almost always forget I'm working on is a granny square project. This is mostly Jamieson and Smith, but I think I have a few random skeins of Shetland wool, but this is mostly Shetland wool. I have, I think, 1 or 2 skeins of a Patagonia organic merino that I tossed in just in case I don't have the yardage I need in a high contrast color. And I will be knitting it together with a few skeins of Patagonia's fingering weight yarn, organic merino. I'm sorry, I keep saying Patagonia's. This is the yarn Patagonia from Juniper Moon Farms. And so this is in the color mustard, which is more of like a wheat, if you ask me. not the most mustard of shades, but I think it'll become a very bright, fun project with a little bit of a grounding neutral color. Very excited to have this one day, but I'm just loving the process of making every granny square so much that I'm not really in a rush to finish this project. This is a really fun winter project because every square is cheerful and bright. Sometimes I throw in a Christmas one here and there, but I love watching football and making like a Bills square. I love them so much. I have a couple that are slightly different from one another. But anyway, as you can see, all my colors are somewhat muted, but I love a bright egg yolk yellow. And I have a lion's square, which doesn't really fit in with the rest, but I'm just gonna tuck it like under my arm or something out of sight. And I'm just really, really loving all these unique squares. I don't have a single repeat. I do have to make a few half squares though, and some of my favorite squares I'm repeating in my half squares just to give it, I don't know, a little less chaos maybe. So what I need to do for this is figure out exactly how many squares I need so that I don't make too many of the wrong shape. And then I will assemble all of them. I plan to knit every square first and kind of assemble them. I don't know. Okay, so I need to do my research in advance and find out if what I was gonna do is assemble them with the one granny square row that like alternates to join two squares together. I think instead I plan to knit a solid row around each of them and then sew them together. I think that would actually be a better outcome for me, but I want to do my research on how to assemble them and how it's going to look, because I know I did it once before. I didn't write down my plan and I forgot my plan. So I need to look back into the video history, or find the video about joining granny squares and figure out which methodology I want to use, because I want it to look very clean, very simple, but I don't mind there being a more structured join between the squares. I wouldn't mind that at all. This is still a project I sometimes forget about because it's not knitting, it is crochet. And that's that on that. So I'm gonna just get my hair out of the way really quick. Someone had asked me to show you how I put my hair up, and I put it up like it's gonna go in a ponytail, but it's not. I just slide it to the top of my head so that the side kind of fans out a little bit with a little volume. And then I hold it, twist it, wind it, bop it. Now we're not bopping anything here. Anyway, I just hold it on my head the way I want it to be. And then I have this cool little pin here. And I stick that through. And that's my hair. Sometimes I kind of pull my bangs back out of it. But anyway.
It was the charm offensive that charmed the fascist. You guys, it was incredible. And so here we have an image coming out. We have Mike Nellis tweeting, "Find you somebody who looks at you like Donald Trump looks at Zoran Mamdani." I bet Stephen Miller is on suicide watch, because that image right there is the remedy for all of the white supremacist ambitions of Stephen Miller. That image right there is the image of the United States of America. And Zoran's, we've interviewed him in person, you guys. He is authentic. He has charisma out the wazoo. He is handsome. He is smart. And in person, his desire for affordability, his decency radiates off of him. It is authentic and it is real. This right here is my favorite clip of the whole thing. Zoran, Trump completely cedes that he's a fascist in front of Zoran and the press. Watch this, play the clip.
He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay, you can just say yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that's easier. It's easier than explaining it, I don't mind.
Oh my God. He's like, okay, yes, I do. Kanks seated, like, it's okay. We all know I am one. I like you. You don't have to go through this humiliation exercise. In fact, Kanks was willing to absorb all of the humiliation. And I think Zoran continues to put on a masterclass. And I think something that's really important here is that as much as we dislike Kanks and as demented as he is, his political instincts have always been pretty spot on. And he likes winners and he likes winning. And he knows how popular Zoran is. He knows, and it's not just concentrated in New York. It is across the United States. And he knows that being photographed with him and being kind to him was something that the Democratic establishment didn't do. And they still continue to try to distance themselves from him. Look at how fun the internet was yesterday when this happened. And this tells you exactly why when the Democrats are on the main ticket, they lose, because they have terrible political instincts, terrible, because Hakeem Jeffries and Cory Booker and Chuckles had some focus group that says, oh, we don't know if you should be seen with a socialist. And we rather think it's better to play this Islamophobic thing.
What am I knitting? I have here in front of me my Ravelry queue, and I want to go through that with you. Now, there are more projects that I can fit into my Make 9 that I do want to make. There are things at like 10, 11, 12, 13 that I would love to make one day. And I'm just going to say that my queue is going to evolve and change in time. I do own most of the patterns in my queue, almost all of them. And I have yarn picked out for every single one of them. So I'm already invested in these projects and it's subject to change. I will say though, because I have a minimum of 9 projects planned with yarn already in my stash, I am expecting that the year 2026 will be a no-buy year for me and yarn. I have done no-buys in the past. They turned into low buys. And I think the year before last, I was pretty successful at knitting any new yarn that came into my stash almost right away. And I do find that that is a more enjoyable way for me to live. And so because I hadn't set the intention of a no buy, low buy, I did buy more yarn this past year than I have in recent years. And I'm seeing it sit in my stash and I'm not thrilled about that, because any extra room I might have gained by knitting yarn from my stash I already had acquired, I have filled that space back up. So for 2026, because of that, and I do intend to buy at least one new fleece in May of 2026 at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival, and I'm planning to spin more yarn, I very much want to knit completely from my stash in 2026. That is my goal. Will I buy yarn? Maybe. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. But I want to knit with my stash and stash down this beast of a dresser I have. It is full. I also have this basket down here, which is all of the yarn I have queued. So this is additional skeins of current projects that I have on my needles already. I try not to carry those around with me because it's just extra weight. And I like to keep things in their skein form as long as possible. So I have all of my skeins of all of my current projects, plus 2 or 3 cast-ons that I plan to cast on next. This gives me a visual representation of what I've already committed to. And because I have yarn from my stash for all 9 of my makes for 2026, I have a lot that I've committed to, and it's all right in front of me, and it's getting overwhelming. So in order to let that feeling subside, I am making my confession. And I'm telling you now, I will not be buying any new yarn for, I mean, obviously a minimum of 6 months because of the Maryland Sheep and Wool. I typically only buy yarn at festivals. That's not even true. That's not true, Ellen.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen.
I have bought plenty of yarn online. In fact, all the yarn I bought, I think this last year, not all, most of the yarn I bought this last year was online. And wow, I think I've bought 4 sweater quantities of yarn this year, which is way more than the number of sweaters I have knit. So that is making me feel like I need to knit at least 4 sweaters this year. I don't even have 4 sweaters planned. I have 2 tees, 3 sweaters, a shawl, a hat, and 2 gloves.
Let's move along from here, Seth, and let's go to Fox News. Here is the Fox News reaction. Play the clip.
Washington, D.C., that's what we just watched. Now I'm in New York City. We were watching that press conference. I think J.D. Vance is jealous. I think the president wants to use him as a running mate. They really got along fantastic. Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade, lucky enough to fill in for Will Kane. You just saw it, President Trump and New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani.
Okay, you guys. Even Fox News is excited about this. They picked up Little Smokey, threw him under the bus, and drove right over him, right in that clip. You cannot escape the riz and the message of Zohran Mamdani. And this is the path forward for Democrats. They're still, I mean, tomorrow or the next day, the Islamophobia will persist. And people like the ADL and Elise Stefanik and Stephen Miller and Elon Musk will continue to demonize Zohran in the most bigoted, disgusting way imaginable while they all pretend to be against bigotry. But at the end of the message, Zohran represents 2 things that I think the Democratic Party needs to embrace. Number 1, a message of affordability, a message of income inequality that is just completely out of control. And number 2, attaching universal human rights. Okay, we cannot prioritize anti-Semitism over Islamophobia. We cannot prioritize anti-Semitism over misogyny. We cannot prioritize anti-Semitism over white racism towards Black people. They are all connected, and the fight against bigotry is a fight against all of these forms of bigotry. And you cannot think that you're the special minority that's going to get special treatment if you pile on other minorities and attack them. And I'm speaking specifically about the disgusting work that's being done at the ADL right now. Just some of the most horrific form of bigotry in the name of anti-bigotry that I've ever seen. And I think we should continue to call it out. All right. Laura Loomer is going through some things, you guys. Let's talk about her post. Put this up, Seth. Interesting. If socialists are doing a good job, then I guess nobody needs to vote them out during the midterms. If you're a Republican, why not just stay home in 2026 and 2028 since Mamdani's policies are amazing? I agree. Republicans, stay home. All you ever do is fuck up the economy every chance you can get with your we favor rich people and we demean the poor, and we're going to do it all in the name of Jesus Christ. And the way you lie to these rural voters and the way you lie to these working class people is so abhorrent, and the gig is up. Take Laura Loomer's advice. Sit this one out. She goes on to say, I'm confused. No need to oppose the left, I guess. I guess socialism is comfortable now. No need to vote for the GOP in 2026 is the message I'm getting for that. You know what, Laura? I agree. There is no need to vote for the GOP in 2026 because your policies suck. Look at all of the red states that have had Republican supermajorities, like the state I'm sitting in right now, Oklahoma. We have had Republican supermajorities for 20 years. And guess what? We're a bottom 5 state. And guess what the leader of our state does? He goes out and lies to people, uses their faith, weaponizes it against hard, earnest, good working people, and tells them he's trying to do the Lord's work. Meanwhile, he favors giving billionaires in this state tax breaks and fleecing the working class in doing so. And he has driven the education system from 14th down to 50th. And then he says the problem are books that he wants banned, and that we don't have enough faith in schools. Again, weaponizing faith against these well-meaning people that can't ever seem to get ahead, because trickle-down economics has been and always will be a lie.
The top 3 patterns in my queue for 2026 are all Teti Litzak patterns. And I'm sure that's no surprise to you. I've talked again and again about her patterns I would like to knit. And so we'll just get those out of the way really quick because I've spoken the most about them most recently. But they are, of course, the Candelaria pullover, the Candelaria blouse, and a newer pattern that came out more recently, the Medokvit. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So I have yarn in my stash. I'm not going to bore you with the details. I know until I cast on, you probably don't care. But I have all of that yarn ready to roll, and I can't wait to knit from my stash and make a wardrobe I'm excited to wear. The things I'm most excited to wear, I've made a long time ago, and I feel like I'm losing confidence in myself to knit gorgeous things. I've been knitting more and more basic things that are just a little less like impressive in a sense. I love color work. There's nothing more beautiful to me than color work. And it's just so enjoyable to knit. So I'm really excited to knit 3 colorwork pullovers. I also threw some smaller projects on my queue because I want to be realistic. I'm not going to go from knitting like 2.5 sweaters a year, if that, to like 4 plus 5 more. So I'm going to be real. And I've also already purchased the pattern for Andrea Mowry's Jaunty. I plan to knit a nice small fingering weight one with my Handspun. I think this will be a very good shawl scarf to wear throughout the winter. And I have 2 patterns by Sari Nordland. They are the Iba Tee and the Lalu V-neck tee. Both of those patterns I'm going to knit with the Wandering Flocks cotton lino yarn. And for the Iba Tee, I actually have a silk mohair to hold along with it to give it the right gauge, which I think is perfect for that project. And the last 3 patterns I have in my Make 9, again, coming back to the idea of being realistic and knitting more projects, but less yarn. There's a pattern I have had in my library. It's actually a free pattern. It's called the Head Sock by Amanda Steck. I think I'm going to swap out the cast on, but I do like the way it looks. I want to knit that for Brian. I've been telling him I'm going to knit him a new hat for years, and I have a few skeins of Brooklyn Tweed's Shelter yarn that has been waiting to become a hat. So there's that. And then I have a bunch of yarn in my stash that I could knit into either of these 2 glove patterns. One is the Alma, and it's a gorgeous colorwork design. I think it's very pretty. I think this pattern would be a great application of all of my remaining skeins of Let Low Be yarn. I also have other remnant skeins of worsted weight yarn that I could use as a higher contrast. But I have so many skeins of Let Low Be that I have no projects for, that are just leftovers from former projects. And the last pattern in my Make 9 is the Snow Fern Fingerless Mitts. I just think these are such a pretty pattern. This calls for a DK weight yarn, and I just think it's a really pretty cable. And I think that a fingerless mitt will be just something new and fun to wear that doesn't take a huge amount of time. They require 135 yards of DK weight yarn. It looks like these fingerless mitts need about 60 to maybe 70 grams of yarn. So if you have even just like a remnant skein, not even a full skein, you could make something like that, and it could be a cool gift or just something to wear. So that's what I'm making in 2026. I am so excited to cast on with more of my Handspun. This is probably, I think, my yes, of course, my most recent skein, and it's probably one of the better skeins I've spun. Not the best in recent years. I have like a whole basket over here of yarn that sits on my wall that I've spun and is a little more consistent, even though I really tried to let my second bobbin rest. I feel like the one bobbin that had been spun for like an entire year that sat there unplied, there was just no way I could get the like last of it, which was so set in its twist, to be close to the other bobbin that I had only spun like not that long ago. So I don't know, there's a lot to say about spinning your singles in somewhat close proximity to one another so that when you ply them together they act the same. I guess you could just let all of your singles sit forever and that might help, but once I've finished a bobbin of singles, I am so ready to ply as soon as possible. It's really hard to even just wait 24 hours. And because I use wooden bobbins, I hesitate to like steam my bobbins to like facilitate that process quicker because I don't want my bobbin to break from the change in pressure or whatever, you know. So anyway, this I guess will be my next cast on after the Ooey Gooey socks, which I have an update for. The longer I looked at the colors I set aside to knit the socks with, the less I liked the idea. And I am not about to knit that many stitches on that small of a needle to regret it. And if I'm devoting all of my time for 4.5 days to one project to get it done, I want to be in love. So I looked into my stash this morning and I found this skein of black yarn. There was a break in it, so I just caked it into 2 balls. And I rewound my skein from Spin Cycle to reacquaint me with the color changes, and to bring onto the outside this beautiful acorn brown shade. Now this is a color of Spin Cycle I don't recall, but I did over dye it with black walnuts, so it's more muted, it's more autumnal, and I love it so much. These skeins, this skein is from Abundant Earth Fibers, and it is their fingering base. Many years ago, I thought I might start a small hobby business of hand dyeing yarn. I quickly realized I don't have the fortitude to commit all of my extra time outside of my full-time job to do more like of that type of work. So I quit the idea as soon as I started, but I reached out along with my order and I asked if they have samples because I was thinking about selecting their yarn as a base. If you hadn't heard of Abundant Earth Fiber, I would check them out. They're in Washington State. I think it's a great sister skein to Spin Cycle because I know long ago when they were, I think, waiting for their mill to arrive, I think that they relied on Abundant Earth as a mill to prepare their yarn. Maybe not this yarn, but I think another yarn. Anyway, 2 Washington brands coming together, and this is what was totally bare wool yarn. I dyed black, just a solid black. So I think that this is going to be moody, which is very much on brand for my current color scheme. Well, I just showed you a giant granny square project that's full of color, but most of the things I'm making lately are more muted. And I think that this is going to work out really well. I have 60 something grams of this, so I should have just enough, which makes me think I might change my entire plan. I was going to do the toe-up version with the solid heel instead of alternating colors. I think this time I'm not sure if I'm going to knit the top down with the with the heel flap and gusset, or if I'm going to knit toe up with the flagel heel, because I don't know if I have a preference really. I think the one socks I still No, they have worn out. I'm just not sure. I really think that I want to knit the welts at the top with this beautiful acorn shade. And I'm afraid if I don't do a top-down sock and I choose the toe up, all of that acorn yarn is going to end up in the toe where I won't see it. And then I'm going to be stuck with like red and black at the welt section. So I'm thinking that I might do top down, even though that wasn't my plan. And I'm a little bit worried about knitting the foot too long, like I did the last time when I knit the bear paw socks. I knit them too long. I'm going to chalk that up to them being a ribbed pattern and me not knowing what I was doing. I don't know. I'm so afraid of failure because I've failed so many times in recent projects that I don't want to do it again. But all you can do is try. You know, there's less room to rip back and redo when you're on like a knit along schedule. I think this should work out. I think. Anyway, I'm gonna not think about this until Wednesday, and I already pulled out my needles for that. I might cast on the jaunty just to have it started, but maybe I won't. Nope, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna distract myself from what I'm currently working on, which is this very much deep in progress top-down cardigan. Gosh, she is gorgeous. I just wish it didn't take so long to knit every single row. I think that the sleeves have a bit of a like cinched in moment at the top. So I think I'm going to be done with this sooner than I realize. And I think I'm a lot closer than it seems. I also have to pick up and knit the collar, which is always a daunting task in my opinion. So I'm kind of like not even looking forward to working on this. It just feels like such a slog. Maybe it would help if I wove in a couple ends and finished the armpits. You know, that might help make it feel a little closer to finished, because as it is, these rows just feel insanely long and I'm over it. I'm not going to knit another bottom up in a while. Just wait till I get to that Tetsy pattern. I'm sure that once I get to the colorwork section, I'm going to have a ton of stitches to pick up and I'm going to hate it. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. And I think that is it for this week's episode of the Thread to Mend podcast. I want to thank you so much for watching. I wonder, do you have plans this holiday weekend? Are you having food with friends and fam? I wish you luck.
All right. And I'm going to leave you all with something that I've had MTG on a watch for quite some time now. And Marjorie Taylor Greene resigns. Let's play a little bit of her clip.
Self-respect and dignity. I love my family way too much, and I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms, and in turn be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me.
Okay. All right. She goes on and on. Here's the thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to run for president. All right. She's either going to be Tucker Carlson's vice presidential pick after a primary, or she herself, which I think there's too much misogyny in the MAGA movement, but she is removing herself from a very toxic president who is in the low 30s approval rating. And she is packaging herself as a more compassionate conservative that still offers the MAGA base, the Riley Gaines of the world. Hey, look, we can still be kind of Jesus-y, but we can also hate immigrants. And we can fearmonger and scapegoat, and we can continue to lie to people, and we can continue to make sure that, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you guys, she voted for the big, beautiful bill that is removing healthcare for millions of Americans. And so the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Riley Gaines, these people that use their faith to lie to people that think, oh, she's in my tribe, so that it's okay, I can take their leadership on this, to marginalize and just straight up be diabolically cruel to your fellow Americans, the poorest, is about the most un-Christ-like thing you could possibly do. Okay, listen. This has been an amazing 24-hour development. Of course, Kanks, within an hour or two could send tanks into the city of New York City because we're dealing with a dementia-ridden man. But it was a fun day yesterday to be an American. We continue our Marjorie Taylor Greene watch. We continue to call out Fox News and all of the fake Christians that are a walking, talking, breathing advertisement. Why not to be a Christian? The Riley Gaines, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the J.D. Vances of the world. That is one of the cancers, and we have to keep fighting because there are good, decent, religious people in this country that think about marginalized people before they do about enriching themselves, that feels something in them if they were to speak disparagingly about the poorest among us, the sickest among us. And on Fox News, they do that effortlessly. That Kilmeade that we played earlier that was just giddy over Zoran. You all remember he talked about euthanizing homeless people, just really casually. So listen, some days it is very difficult to be an American. Some days it gets a little better. But you guys, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep building a community, building our pro-democracy ecosystem that is not linked to corporate ownership. And make sure you subscribe to our channel, like this video, buy our book, Life is a Lazy Susan of Shit Sandwiches. It is a great way to support Pumps and me. And we'll be back later with more news.
I am very excited for this holiday weekend. I have so many fun plans, very excited, and that is that on that. I want to thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have if you want to find me on social media, my name is Taylor E. Owen on Ravelry and Instagram. You can find me on TikTok as Taylor Knits. I hope that you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and that you take care.